You're listening to the Current Plays Podcast, Season 3, Episode 5, Lord of the Rings, Fate of the Fellowship. Now please welcome your hosts, Jordan and Thomas. And welcome back, adventurous listeners. This week, we're going to talk Lord of the Rings, Fate of the Fellowship.
All right.
Designed by Matt Leacock and published by Z-Man Games, which I find interesting because he went away for a while, right? Or he went to work for another company, and then I guess he just started this back up again, or
We talking Matt Leacock?
no, the Z-Man Games.
Yeah, so I think it was Zev, I want to say like Zev slash and I don't know, cool name. Anyways, he was like the head of Z-Man Games and then he left and went somewhere else, probably where the Z comes from in Z-Man Games.
Yeah,
I think to like WizKids or something. But
right.
Z-Man still, yes, Z-Man always still existed. He just went to somewhere else and then maybe I think he's jumped around a bit. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, I picked this one up just because of all the hype, if I'm going to be honest. Uh, and then we actually, it's been a really good bit of board gaming for us last weekend. We had some friends over, played a big game of Cyclades, and then we played
Yeah.
a little bit of Arcs, a couple of chapters before
hmm
people had to go home. We'll probably talk about those two in like a bonus episode or something.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
coming up, stay tuned. But then we played a game of Fate of the Fellowship, just you and I.
Yeah.
So this was not actually our regular weekly game, but we thought we'd talk about this one because well, the one we played some Concordia Venus this week, and we've talked about that one. I meant to look up the episode number, but it will be in the links.
Yeah.
And yeah, so if you want to hear us talk about Concordia Venus, fantastic game, one of my top 10. Check the links for our previous episode. But Lord of the Rings, Fate of the Fellowship.
Yeah.
Now, we have dunked on Matt Leacock quite a bit and
Yeah.
Pandemic specifically.
Only two people on the planet that are not fans of Pandemic.
Yes, yes. Um, So this was a bit of an interesting choice for me. Basically, I'd heard so many good things, and the theme just pulled me in. Right? It's Lord of the Rings. I mean,
Yeah.
it's hard to.
It's almost like enough said. Yeah.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. Lord of the
yeah.
Rings. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Well, and there's been a lot of like Lord of the Rings stuff come out lately, but most of it that's recent has been really good, but it's one of
Yeah.
those things again where you've got an IP and you can just let the IP carry it, or you can design something really special with that IP in mind. And the thing that got me about this game was just how thematic the game design is to the Lord of the Rings story, right?
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So why don't I just quickly go over it? This game, again, designed by Matt Leacock, and it's based on the pandemic system. Um, it, yeah, it bears some similarities and some differences from the pandemic system. You've got a map of Middle Earth, and you're going to get four objective cards, and that's how you're gonna play and win the game is by completing these objectives, right? One of those objectives is always get the ring to Mount Doom and throw it in, right? Which excellent choice, excellent design choice there. Then the other three objectives, you have to complete them first before you can complete throw the ring in Mount Doom. And those are going to vary. There's like a whole bunch of them. And some of them will have like character requirements. There's like basically, if you take this objective, you need to include this character in the game. And other ones are more wide open. And that being said, the game contains like a ton of different characters, playable
Yeah,
characters, right? It comes with the characters are actually pretty big wooden meeples with screen printed artwork on them, and they are fantastic.
really great.
And then you've got a bunch of Nazgul that are like minis. They're very small minis on flight stands, which are also very cool. And then you've got the peoples of Middle Earth, like warriors, and you've got the shadow forces they call them, which would be Sauron's forces, and they are the tiniest little wooden meeples you've ever seen in your life. But basically, much like in any pandemic game, you've got cards with symbols on them and regions of the map. And the idea is you're going to have to trade those cards with each other to spend the symbols on various things throughout the game. And ultimately, you need five, cards with ring symbols or tokens with ring symbols. We'll get into that in order to complete the Mount Doom quest, right? So you got to be on Mount Doom and spend five ring tokens, and that's you throwing the ring into the mountain. So you're drawing cards off of the player decks, which have these symbols and these regions, which provide different limitations. And then so you're going to take your actions, draw two cards, and then you draw cards from the you know the AI deck, the bad guy deck,
Yeah,
because this is a
yeah.
cooperative game. And those cards are going to tell you to do things, and it's either putting more of the shadow forces on the board or moving the shadow forces around the board and moving the Nazgul around the board. And then that's basically it. And then the next player takes their turns. You've got a threat track, which is going to determine how many of the Shadow Forces cards you draw. And then you've got a hope track, which, as bad things happen, you lose hope. And if the hope track ever reaches zero, you've lost all hope and you lose the game. That's basically it in a nutshell. There's obviously a lot of similarities to Pandemic, but a lot of differences too. Why don't you give us your thoughts on that, Thomas?
So I'm gonna start with the bad stuff first, because you know what? Why not? Um, Matt Leacock is known for his pandemic system. I mean, he created it. He's done iteration after iteration after iteration on it. I don't know the guy personally, but when it comes down to it, I feel like we get that it works, and most people love the system and are happy to play that system, but can you do something without the system? Can you leave that aspect behind? Because this game has some really cool stuff in it and like really neat stuff. Um, but then it has some of the pandemic vibe that I just go, I wish that wasn't in here. I just wish I is there no other way this could have been implemented so that wasn't in here? And I'll get specifics here.
Yeah.
So what drives me crazy about Pandemic especially is this bad guy deck, as we said. When it comes down to it, you can essentially just take this deck and just start placing the cards down like one after the other and be like, okay, yeah, we would have lost this one. Pack it up. That's good. Good game. We're done in 15 minutes, right? Instead of actually playing through it all and getting the experience. And that's with every pandemic game. You can go through and be like, ooh, look at that. That was two nasty things next to it. We would have died right there. Okay, that's it. We just saved ourselves 2 hours of gameplay, right? I find the pandemic system is I'm being facetious. Obviously, I'm going over because obviously as you're playing, you're gonna put out fires, and that's what pandemic is putting out fires here and there and there and there and whatever, right? And then
Yeah.
hopefully you aimed at the right fires to put out, and something that seemingly wasn't that bad all of a sudden explodes because you got three cards in a row that attack that direct area, right? You can't plan for that, right? So that is just strictly how we shuffled the cards at the start of the game, and if they're like that, I'm sorry, you don't win, right? And we got close to that. We got really close to just failing because we couldn't get the right cards. We couldn't get enough ring cards coming up
Yeah.
to help us pass. And that stuff that drives me crazy because I don't it's not the only way to do things, right? There's other ways to do things. Now,
Yeah, well, like so as you said, in our game,
yeah.
we, we managed to get Sam and Frodo are one character in this game, and we managed to sneak them into Mordor quite well
Yeah.
to Mount Doom, and we were all over on the rest of the map trying to distract Sauron and his forces, and we were playing everything as well as we could. I think we were playing everything pretty well,
Yeah, we
and
optimized some stuff so well. Yeah.
And then Sam and Frodo just sat there turn after turn after turn after turn because no ring cards were coming up. And there was
Yeah.
just nothing we could do about that.
Yeah, yeah. It just the way the deck was set up at the start of the game, right? There's no searching through the deck for cards, anything like that, right? So we were really at the mercy of that initial deck setup,
Yeah.
which is unfortunate, right? Because here's the thing, like this game, it's got this big, massive map board of Middle Earth, which cool, really cool. And I really like how it's got this sort of like combat mechanic where you have Sauron's forces moving around the board and you're raising up armies of elves, dwarves, humans, and then between the humans you have the your riders of Rohan. Yeah, it's all the same. They're brown meeples instead of the blue meeples from, Minas Tirith meeples kind of thing, right? So, but you got the Gondorians, you have the um
Rohirrim.
Rohirrim. I don't know. I think that's but you have all these different groups that you're raising armies with. That's really neat. And you're moving them across the board with the heroes and stuff. And when you get into the battle, yeah, the battle was just like rolling dice. And it was actually it was more difficult because the dice were often it was like a 50-50, but usually there was only one side of the die that only damaged the enemy, versus many of the sides being like damage to both sides. So, you know, in battle, you're going to lose troops, right? And I like that. I thought that was great. Even though it was using randomization of dice, we still manipulated that. I had the one character, Eomer, that if he brought a rider of Rohan with him, you could ignore one of the, basically casualties on your side. So it's like, great. I traveled with those two, and then, rolled one dice at a time or a few dice at a time, and then it really saved on the troop losses, right? And I
Yeah.
love that sort of aspect of the strategy there. That's how we got around sort of all the losses in the armies, and I thought that was great. That was really neat. So that comment. Then there was these like, I don't know if they were strongholds or places of power or something, like Moria was one, and
Yeah. Havens. Oh, wait.
havens.
Oh,
Yeah, yeah,
Havens is for the good guys.
yeah.
And then yeah, strongholds are the Sauron's army.
Right, and I loved how there was a few strongholds that you can convert to havens, like Moria, like Isengard, and stuff like that. So you could like flip them. They start off as strongholds, but you can flip them to havens, and then they're basically less likely to be overrun because no, whenever you flip those cards now, that would typically put a orc in that area. If it's a haven now, it just doesn't generate the bad forces, right? The evil forces, which fantastic, so cool. And then the character powers too. I touched on that with the Eomer there. Each of the characters had a unique kind of power. You sent me a snapshot of Eowyn's power,
Yeah.
like that night, and I was like, oh my goodness, that's such a crazy. So she like takes Nazgul off the board.
Yeah.
Just cool stuff. Like they did really neat stuff. Um, but then you have, like I said, you have the pandemic aspects, right? Being at the mercy of the deck, and you know, yeah, it really bothers me. The whole being at the yeah the whole game is determined on this flipping of this deck, and drawing of cards that you just might draw the wrong stuff or have the wrong combination of the shuffling that happened at the start that just doesn't work in your favor, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Not like a strategic Euro, whatever, where you can plan ahead and get the resources that you need to get. And
yeah, yeah. And if
yeah.
you make a mistake, that's on you for making a mistake. This
Yeah.
one here, you flip a card and you're like, yeah, okay. Extra forces over there. I didn't know they were gonna pop up there kind of thing, right? So
Yeah.
it's harder to kind of be strategic. And that's where I think some of the almost like what could have been done different to make it cooler, right? That stuff, like removing that and this just making this about the territory control too, and the missions. I love the missions. The missions were great. Doing those missions in some sort of co-op area control game where you're working against this adversary that's the I think that'd be really neat. That'd be really cool. Maybe add some powers to the different races so they're not just blue meeples, brown meeples, gray meeples kind of thing. Now they're
Yeah.
okay, the blue meeples can do this and so you want to have the different races, you know, teaming up so you can get stack these bonuses or whatever, right?
So to
So I
be
think like
fair, I mean,
yeah.
it's more like the depending on the heroes that you take,
Hmm.
right? They can
Absolutely.
interact with those different races differently.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
you've got a little bit there. I didn't mind I don't mind the shadow deck so much, right? So it's one of those you flip a card and there's two different types of artwork on the backs of the cards. And depending on the artwork, you're either going to do the top portion of the card you flip or the bottom portion. So you don't know what the next card is going to be. You flip that card and then you're looking at the back of the card that's still on the deck. And then the card that you just flipped, the top part is usually movement of the troops, and I like how that was done. So I think this sort of replaces the whole, you put a disease cube in the city and
And then it
now it
explodes.
spreads,
Yeah.
right? This is like, okay, all the troops that are along this particular path on the map, they all move one space towards, and they were all moving towards like the havens basically. And if the shadow forces overrun the havens and take out all the troops there, then it's going to flip over to a stronghold, and then you lose
Yeah.
hope. But then if you conversely, if you take out a stronghold and make it a haven, then you're going to gain hope. So I I like that. Like I liked the troop movement mechanic. And then at the bottom, it would, like I said, it would normally be okay, add more troops to this particular city.
Yeah.
And then the Nazgul do something. They either move closer to Frodo, or they move towards where Sauron's eye is, or they'll move to Mordor. Like so, there's some neat movement mechanics with the Nazgul that I thought were pretty smart. Because they're typically the focus is going to go towards Frodo, and then it's up to everybody else to sort of distract and bring the focus
Yeah. Draw
away
aggro.
from Frodo by like
Yeah.
starting battles in other places, which also encourages you to engage and battle around the map, right?
Yeah, I thought that
So
was clever. Yeah, yeah, for
yeah.
sure. That was a good way to had it just had the exploding things like pandemic, I would have been like, oh boy, this is just a
Oh, I wouldn't
pandemic
have picked up
reskin.
the game.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. But that was neat. That was a
Yeah.
cool little thing, and I could get behind that. If you kept that in, I'd be like, that's cool. I like it because it was like, yeah, and the idea like you take that deck every once in a while and you shuffle it back in and put it on top of the deck. So you're seeing those same cards come up, but because they have the top version and the bottom version, when the same card comes out the second time, maybe it's the same movement that you saw previously, or maybe it's the bottom action of the card that you didn't do the time before, right? That
Yeah.
was cool because then each card is almost like it's two different types of things, right? So it makes a lot more changes rather than you flip a card, it's the same card, and you have that exploding pandemic thing. Oh yeah, okay,
Right.
we're in you know Milan here, so we cause all the cubes to go again, and we know Milan's coming up again, whatever, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um, so I like that. I did enjoy that. I thought that was clever, and I thought that was done in a good way. It was probably, I guess, if we boil it down to it, it's just that that whole,
It's the player
uh,
card deck. It's
yeah, the player card
it's
deck.
yeah,
Yeah,
it's a
yeah.
terrible mechanic.
It's not a fun mechanic. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't know if there's anything else that does that sort. I feel like I've played other games that have a similar thing, and it's where you're trying to get, set collection there, but it's okay because there's not. I don't know. I don't know what makes it just feel so bad, right? Because especially because like yeah, you're against the game, and then if you're just not pulling rings because they were shuffled to the bottom of that deck,
Yeah.
then you get so far through the game, okay, 2 hour, 3 hour experience, and you fail, and then it's like, hey, what was that? What was that worth? Right? That feels like a giant waste, right? At that point.
Yeah, we
Um,
we won, but we won by the skin of our teeth just
oh, so
because
close. Yeah.
again, Sam and Frodo are sitting on Mount Doom,
Yeah.
just waiting for ring cards to come up. And so turn after turn, all the Nazgul just kept coming into Mordor, which
Yeah.
makes as soon as you throw the ring in, you have to survive what's called a search roll. So typically, as Frodo and Sam move, you have to spend stealth tokens or stealth icons, let's say, for their movement. Otherwise, you're going to roll a search. So it's the Nazgul are looking for Sam and Frodo. That thematically, that's super cool. You take the number of Nazgul in the region. Sorry, you take the number of Nazgul in the region, and you take the number of shadow forces that are in Sam and Frodo's location, and you're going to roll that many dice. And then, depending on the results, you will just straight up lose hope, which
Yeah.
is crazy. It's very punishing. So we managed like this whole game to avoid those search rolls until we got stuck on Mordor,
Yeah.
and then it was
Manipulating battles to draw the Nazgul away,
yeah,
sending Frodo and Sam in a different way around rather than the normal. Yeah, yeah, we like we're outmaneuvering things quite a bit to avoid that stuff. Yeah.
yep. And then in the end, it was just sorry, no ring cards came up again. Like,
Yeah,
and,
yeah,
and
yeah,
we
yeah.
had to survive like three searches in a row. And luckily, we had maintained our hope at like the max level the entire game. And then
Yeah.
at the end, we were one away from losing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. We were at the top and went all the way to the bottom, one spot ahead of just failure, right?
Yep.
Just due to not drawing ring cards.
And yet, so different icons are used for different things throughout the game. So
Yeah.
there's four, right? So there's rings, which lets you re-roll certain types of rolls, and then obviously you need five at the end of the game. There's swords, which I think is valor, which lets you during a battle you can spend those tokens to get rid of shadow troops.
Yeah, yeah.
There's hearts, which I think is friendship, and that lets you recruit troops. And what's that? Oh, and then stealth. Stealth is the last one, which you need for Sam and Frodo's movement. also, there are different special paths along the maps where if you take this certain path, you have to spend a certain number of icons to do it. So, where I'm going with this is we had a couple of characters that if you recruited people, so Gimli, if you recruited dwarves, Gimli didn't have to spend those friendship icons, right? And we had Boromir, who, if you recruited people from Minas Tirith, then or the Gondorians,
Yep,
then
yep.
you didn't have to spend those icons. Great. Like, I don't know what we would have done if we didn't have that, right?
Oh, yeah, yeah,
And
absolutely.
then Gimli had a special ability to, once a turn, you could spend one of your actions to just get a Valor token. Well, that's fantastic. Okay, now I have choice. I have agency. I
Yeah.
can spend an action, which has an opportunity cost, to gain a Valor token and then use that on a later turn or this turn or whatever, instead of just, oh, I randomly happen to get a Valor token this time around, right? Uh, that is much more satisfying than just, yeah, drawing randomly out of this deck.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. Yeah. Actually, the game I was thinking about that has that sort of deck here, and I'm trying to I can't see it on my shelf here, but I recently played both the I think it was Princess Bride and the Lord of the Rings like storybook game. And those ones both come with a deck of cards with different symbols on those cards, and it's you're trying to collect those set collection, and then once you have enough of those, you know, the sets of symbols, you trade them in and you can complete those quests or missions or whatever, right?
Right.
And that works. It's a little easy. Those ones are a little simple. But it works nice because there's enough things in there that allow you to A, draw cards, but B, you know, maybe there's additional cards that allow you to draw more cards or allow you to trade with your opponent. Like in the pandemic system, you can only trade if you're on the same space as one of these heroes, right? Which okay, fine. That's a limitation.
And then you have to trade for the region that you're in, right? Like,
Exactly. But
yeah,
then yeah, exactly. There's all these limitations on that.
yeah,
Um so then you might get a ring card that's great. I got a ring card, you needed it because those are your characters. But then it's across the board and somehow okay, well we have to send these two characters over there to trade this, right?
yeah.
And it's just
Oh, we're together here, but we gotta travel to the other side of Middle Earth in order to pass this over.
you know, exactly,
Yeah,
right? So like and not even that, like that would be one thing if we even had those rings, but we barely got those as well. So it
yeah,
wasn't till the end where I pulled a couple of rings and then we were able to trade you one and do that. But then that almost cost us the game too because we had to spend full turns, like you have four actions with one character. So I had to take like a full turn just to move to the area. And then on your turn, you had to move to my spot and then spend an action to take the card, right? And then you finally had that card in your, you know, but that meant we almost did a round of not putting out fires just to
yeah,
trade a card, right? And that feels gross. Is what it does, right? Otherwise, it's just waiting for you specifically to draw when at the end of your turn you draw two new cards. Okay. Well, two cards. Oh, neither of them are a ring. Two cards. Neither of them are okay, that was three rounds where you didn't draw a single. Six turns because I had a turn in between each of yours, right before,
yep.
and you didn't get a
And maybe
single ring,
you're
right?
drawing the rings and I'm not, right?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, yeah. So it
yeah,
was, yeah,
yeah,
it didn't feel. I feel like that could be done in a better way. And those storybook games, maybe they're too easy for what this goes for because like the way that pandemics are really set up is they're supposed to bring you right to the wire. That's
right.
supposed to be, but I get the sense some people feel like, oh yeah, I felt like we were so close to losing, and that's the great feeling or whatever. But for me, it's I feel like we were so close to losing because we our deck was shuffled in a weird way. So if
Right.
we just flip decks, we could be like, oh okay, look, we don't get 5 rings till 3/4 through the deck. Okay, this is a lost game. So let's just we'll just mark it as a loss and then go to the next one, right? So that's that like I'm saying at the start of this, kind of rant was
Yeah.
basically it comes down to a lot of that, right? Which is unfortunate because there's so much fun stuff you can do. To sour it on that sort of stuff is kind of unfortunate, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But for me personally, the negative aspects of the game got a little bit swallowed by just the theme of the game. Like, I got lost in the theme of the game. It's
Yeah.
extremely thematic. Like the character powers are thematic. The objectives are thematic. It just the the Lord of the Rings theme and the way that this game meshed it into the mechanics, I thought was fantastic. Again, other than the player deck, I thought everything else was great. The only the only criticism I really have, other than you know what we've already talked about,
Hmm.
is a production one. So the cards are a little thin, a
Yeah.
little flimsy. Um, they've already gotten damaged just handling them, like gently. Uh, the board, the board is actually fairly sizable, I would say. But it's too small for what it is. And I feel like they made things smaller so they could use less material so they could save a little money almost, you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
Because the board does take up a fair amount of table space, but there's a lot of stuff on that board. Lines going all over the place, and you're putting all these meeples on there, and so they've made the meeples like tiny so that you can fit them on, but then there were times where you went into a battle and like didn't even realize that certain meeples were even there because they either just blended in or you can't see them behind the character or whatever because they're just
Yeah.
ridiculously small.
And then when you had the
Ridiculously small.
Nazguls, yeah, all
Yeah, and
these like various, which I thought was cool. So the Nazguls they gave you varying heights of those little like flying things, which was really neat because it made it, you know,
yes.
added levels to it. But having said that, we herded them oftentimes into one location, and then when
Yeah.
we're trying to have a battle there, it's like trying to like I remember one time I was like, I knocked over one, and then I sent a few meeples flying, and then when I was putting up the meeples, I knocked another one, who knocked another one, and it was like 5 different like, and I was like, oh my God, like I
Yep.
just with like, so then to the point where it's all, especially with like the little meeple guys, we started to put them up on their feet, and we're like, forget it, we're just blep. Yeah, yeah, a
Yep.
little pile here, a little pile there, whatever, that's it, right? It's too hard to figure out where their feet are at first, and then to make sure they're all no, no, that's not happening. Yeah,
Yeah, exactly.
no. Which is weird because yeah, you're right. It has those sort of production, and then it has a big dice tower,
Yeah.
which cool, but also really unnecessary. You're never. I guess you could roll a lot of dice, but yeah, I don't know. It's weird places, to say, okay, we're gonna make the meeples very small. But then we're going to include a massive dice tower. But then we're going to have really thin cardstock on the cards. But then we're going to, but then we're going to have these cool miniatures for the Nazgûls with varying heights. So there was thought put into that. But
Yep.
yeah, a bit all over the place from a production standpoint, and not a cheap game either, right? Like from like off
No.
the shelf if you're buying it, right? So it's not like, oh yeah, I paid $40 and I got all this stuff. No, no, it's not one of those games, right? You're paying for, an upper end sort of game, um, that it takes weird stands in different places, I guess, right? So
Yeah.
yeah, I think the card stock was the biggest shock for me for sure. Because I don't know a lot of games nowadays, especially at that price point, that don't have, you know, thick card stock for cards, right? To have really thin cards seems a weird choice. Yeah.
Yeah, and then the shadow cards they made, like the oversized cards,
Yes. Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Yeah.
again, just an interesting choice.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
guess like because they have the artwork of the paths that
Sure.
that the
Yeah.
bad guys are moving. Um, maybe that's why. Like maybe they needed the space to make those paths clear, but I don't know. Could you have got that on normal size cards? Maybe.
I didn't even realize those were on for like 3/4 of the game. So like even if you didn't have those, you could use a normal sized card, right? It's not super difficult to find, what city they're coming from to what city they're going to and follow a line across, right? So yeah, it was handy to be able to look at that and be like, oh yeah, here it comes. It comes way down here and then whatever, right? But
Right.
yeah, the
Yeah.
oversized cards, that's another thing that I undersized and oversized cards are just a pain, right? They're harder to shuffle, they're easier to bend. Like, yeah, yeah. So I don't know.
Okay,
What do you
so
want to do like a final thought on this one?
yeah. Um, I think for most people are gonna love it.
Yeah,
Unless I think most people are going to enjoy this game. Let's put it that way. Um, I even know some, very heavy gamers who have said that this is, contender for game of the year.
yeah.
I personally disagree. Not game of the year. Um, I I even went to play it solo at all over the weekend after we had played it, and I got it all out and I looked at it and I went, nah. I'd rather play something else. And I
Yeah,
put it
yeah,
all away again. Um, so it's got a ton of replayability in there with the different missions and scenarios and the different characters. Uh, but will I keep playing it over and over again? I don't know. I don't know. I I'm gonna have to give it another couple of plays before I determine if I'm gonna keep it in my collection, to be honest with you.
yeah, yeah,
So it's just, yeah, it's got a lot of great things going for it, but I think, like you said, the pandemic system is not one of them.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, I'm in the same boat. I wouldn't mind trying. I know it comes with some scenarios, testing out some of the scenarios, see how those go. And I think the scenarios just basically give you like certain characters and certain, things goals you have to accomplish.
Hmm.
But yeah, I'm in the same boat. I liked it. I had fun. We had a good game. We had a good time. And I'd recommend it if you're into that pandemic system, like most people seem to be. You'll have a blast with this one for sure. I mean,
Yeah,
if I was ranking the pandemic games of the ones I've played, I'd rank this at the top, right? Because you got a
for sure.
beautiful IP there with Lord of the Rings. That yeah, it's a no-brainer. If you're a Lord of the Rings fan and a pandemic fan, boom, this is great for you, right? If you're on the fence on pandemic, if you dislike it like we do, that's a tougher sell. That's an uphill battle for you to go with this one. But yeah, I mean, try it maybe, and yeah, if you can't get over the hurdle of the pandemic, this is a hard one. But if you can or you like it, then yeah, this can be a big win for sure. Yeah, it's got some really cool stuff going for it for sure.
And that wraps up another episode of the Current Plays podcast. Check us out next week on YouTube or your favorite podcast provider. But until then, good gaming and good night.
Good night, folks.